Hello and welcome to Car File. This week we've gone green. It's all in a bid to save the environment and a few quid along the way as we look at alternatives to smelly old petrol engines. Our first alternative to a petrol engine is a diesel engine. I know, but it is an alternative, albeit a not entirely new one. And we haven't picked just any old diesel either. We've picked a VW Golf GTI. So it's a fast diesel, a very fast diesel in fact. With 150 brake horsepower, it should be more than enough to replace your petrol engine. Don't worry, we will be looking at lots of clever cars later on in the programme that use electricity and a combination of electricity and petrol to get their drive. But first off, we thought we'd start with something that you can buy from the shops today, utilising current technology, without your mates looking at you as if you've gone balmy. And okay, it burns diesel, but don't forget modern diesels have come a very, very long way. Not only are they far, far better to drive, they're far, far better to the environment than ever before. Alright, so I know it's hardly the greatest advancement ever, the diesel engine, but it is incredible to think how far they've come, to the point where now we have a performance car like this that is a brilliant performance car, not despite being a diesel, but because it's a diesel. Driving a fast diesel car these days is an entirely different prospect. They're not big, lumbering, smelly oil burners anymore. What we've got is a huge amount of low-down torque from about 1,500 revs. There's really very little need to change gear once you're underway. Of course, it's not exactly a vegetarian event in here. I mean, it's loaded with every conceivable extra, including leather, aircon and everything else you'd want. But this is a pretty high-end car. This is not a frugal little cheap alternative to a petrol car. This is a pretty pucker piece of kit. With 150 brake horsepower on tap, you can pretty much ignore the D in the Golf TDI's title and safely think of it as more of a GTI, particularly with 0 to 60 achieved in 8.6 seconds. But it is still a diesel, and they used to power just buses. So the Golf manages to offer us excellent performance and good economy, so you will be saving a few quid. But will you be saving the environment? No, afraid not, because it's still putting out fumes, so basically you're still dumping your rubbish in the environment. Yeah, but our next car, the Vauxhall dual fuel, takes a positive step closer to becoming a truly green machine. Because this isn't just an ordinary Vectra, it's a hybrid engined Vectra. Super economical and, we're told, the way of the future. As you can tell, this is the old Vectra. The new model isn't yet available with LPG, although Vauxhall do offer the Astra and the Zafira with the factory-fitted unit. Being a hybrid doesn't mean it has two different types of engine, so there's no electric motors on the wheels type trickery going on. What it does mean is it has two different types of fuel. It can switch between petrol, ooh, nasty planet-wrecking, badger-killing evil stuff, and LPG, which is far better and more efficient burning and better for the environment, and a lot cheaper to run. Now, I'd love to be able to say either that, ooh, it goes all soggy and nasty, it's rather like driving a dead camel, or that all of a sudden it's sparking exciting and LPG makes all the difference. But that's just the point. It doesn't make any difference to drive, it feels exactly the same. It's a Vectra, and it'll still be a Vectra in 100,000 miles time. It makes no difference to the drive, certainly not that you or I would notice. You know, it's funny, there are some things you can't wait to tell the world about your car, so it gets scrawled all over the tailgate with initials like SRI. Somehow LPG doesn't feature amongst them, so the only real outside indication of the fact it is an LPG car is that it seems to have two petrol caps. One of them, if you look closely, does tell you LPG. The secret's out. If all of this has got you tempted to do your bit to save the planet, and let's be honest, save more than a few quid, fine, by all means go ahead, but you will need to sit down and do your calculations. You don't need to do the kind of interstellar mega mileages that you used to have to do to justify an old-fashioned diesel just to save a few pence. It's not that big a difference, but you will need to do a few miles before you save enough money to justify the extra expense in buying a car that can take LPG. The Vauxhall Vectra SRI LPG is more than Vauxhall's answer to Volvo's S60 Bi-fuel. For a start, it's quick. 0 to 60 takes just 9.5 seconds. It might not look the sharpest, it is the older model, but that is very fast for a very clean car. Vauxhall are not the only company to fit a hybrid engine to their environmentally conscious car, so do Honda. But where the Insight differs to the Vectra is on its alternative power source. Rather than utilising LPG technology, the Honda goes one step further by using electricity. Once you're inside its bizarrely aerodynamic shape, there's not a lot in the Insight to tell you you're in anything that different. But there are a few clues. For a start, I seem to be sitting on the floor. It's an amazingly low height here. I don't know whether that's to give the impression I'm really sleek and aerodynamic. Maybe I should wear one of those hats that speed skiers wear. Or maybe not. The other thing to give it away is I have not just a fuel gauge, but a battery meter to tell me about the power in the batteries, and that's where it's all rather clever. What we've got is a tiny, teeny 1 litre petrol engine that's assisted by an electric motor. But you don't plug this in overnight. The power for the electric motor is generated by the car. It's free power, just like one of our windmills here. The wind is going on anyway, so it powers the windmills. In the case of the car, we're moving and it uses the inertia when we're going downhill, when I'm not using the petrol engine to generate electricity, which it saves in the battery and then uses to assist the engine when it needs it. It's all very clever, but you don't actually notice it while you're driving. As a piece of technical wizardry, it is very, very clever. As a car, though, it is flawed in some ways. For a start, it's only a two-seater. And secondly, there's not a lot of room for your kit either. There's a kind of cubby hole at the back there. But other than that, under this hatch, well, there's not much. It's rather shallow. And that's because under here is the battery, which is very big and really quite dangerous. It's not the kind of thing you'd chuck in the bin either. It has to be properly looked after. Looking around generally, well, it's up to Honda's usual standard, just. And that's because a lot of the trim is a little bit flimsy, because Honda have worked very, very hard to keep the weight down so they can keep those incredible fuel consumption figures down as well. The Honda Insight might take a mighty 12 seconds to hit 60 miles an hour, but don't forget you are saving the planet whilst you do it, even as you dash up to its top speed of 112. And at least it doesn't look too bad for a very clever car. If you don't mind looking, well, a bit wacky, and not having a lot of room inside for your mates, it is surprisingly nippy around town, and of course it's got fantastic fuel economy. And you'll have the satisfaction of knowing that you're doing your bit to save the planet. And if all of that has got you in the mood for going green, here are some handy hints on buying into the alternative fuel market. It appears that electricity is the answer to the petrol problem. But what are the benefits of electric hybrids?
One of the main benefits to the driver is, of course, the low fuel consumption cost. The car has very low fuel consumption, and fuel consumption means also low CO2. That means a positive effect on the greenhouse gases.
Although still in its infancy, electric-powered technology is becoming more accessible. The question is, what other alternatives are on the cards?
We have believed in Ford for many years that fuel cells is one of the most promising technologies for the 21st century.
Thanks to fuel cell technology, the car of the future will emit hardly any pollutants when driven. Compared with today's cars and their internal combustion engines, it will generate only about half as much carbon dioxide.
Possibly in the year 2005 we will see the first series production car with the fuel cell technology.
There are many potential replacements for petrol, but unfortunately an all-out revolution is still some time away. So while we wait, what are manufacturers going to do to improve current technology? Well, Mitsubishi are focusing on improving diesel performance with their GDI engine.
GDI can achieve better fuel economy and better performance at the same time. Benefits of GDI engines are lower fuel consumption and less CO2 emission. And also at the same time it achieves more power and torque.
Cars powered by alternatives to petrol are closer now than at any time in the past. Offering improved fuel economy and of course protecting the environment, they appear to be the answer. The problem is getting people to buy them. Coming up after the break on Car File, near silent electric motoring in the Toyota Prius. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back to Car File. Before the break we were driving the Honda Insight, because this week we've gone green. We're looking at real-life cars that you can buy today that use alternatives to smelly old ordinary petrol engines. Now though, we get to grips with this, the Toyota Prius. It's a hybrid just like the Insight. But it's not exactly the same as the Insight. Like the Honda, it has two engines, both a petrol and an electric one. But unlike the Insight, it doesn't run the petrol one all the time. So I'm running now. This is it. I'm ready to go. This is genuinely quite a spooky experience. Brake off, into drive, and electric propulsion has certainly come a very long way since the milk floats I remember from when I was a lad, but I could barely suppress the urge to leap out every now and drop off a bottle of Gold Top at every house I passed. I've got to say, at first, this is one spooky, eerie experience. It seems to run predominantly off the electric motor with the petrol engine there to charge it only when it's required. And that means you just kind of press the button and whoop, waft along. The only thing is I'm tempted to stop off at every house on the way and drop off a couple of bottles of full fat. Actually, when it comes to the way in which you drive the thing, there's nothing difficult. It's a steering wheel, it's 3 pedals, it's exactly the same technique, and I'm kind of getting used to it now. It's just like driving an ordinary car, except it feels completely different. As rides go, it's not brilliant. Round town it's fine, mostly because you're still giggling because you're making no noise. Get out on the road and it's a bit wallowy. The suspension is very, very soft, and round the corners I'm worried that the wing mirrors might touch down. Sharp handler it isn't, nor a sharp looker. Taking an immense 13.4 seconds to hit 60 means the Toyota Prius makes the Honda look positively rapid, but don't forget you can accommodate 4 people in this, which makes it a far more practical proposition as a real-life car, and you save the planet. It doesn't matter how long you live with the Toyota, you're never going to find it pretty, but then the novelty of whispering along in silence would never wear off either. But if all of that hasn't got you tempted, here's an alternative car. It is beautiful, isn't it? And it does seem a shame to spoil it. And now, thanks to those friendly Swedes at Volvo, it's a lot easier for you and for me to do our bit to protect all of this. Oh, and to save a few quid into the bargain. And they make it possible with this, the Volvo S60. I know, it's not powered by electricity, water, not powered by air. There's not a fleet of hamsters under the bonnet charging along on wheels. In fact, it runs on petrol, and you buy it from Volvo like you'd buy any other Volvo. Your only clue that there's something different going on here is under there. You put your petrol in there and your LPG in there. The bi-fuel does exactly what it says on the boot. It's part of a whole new range from Volvo that have two tanks, one for petrol and one for LPG, liquid petroleum gas. Volvo claim it's the first car to have a completely integrated system that takes up no valuable boot space with a whacking great tank. It's hidden away. It's almost disappointing when you climb on board, settling behind the wheel, and there's nothing again to tell you that you're driving anything different. It feels, well, very ordinary, which is, I guess, a good thing. Volvo make bi-fuel versions of most of their models, in fact all of their models, so you can have an S40, a V40, an S60 like this one, a V70 big estate, or even the great big S80 saloon, all with the two fuel systems. And once we're moving, well, I'm just driving a car really. I've got an automatic, I've got a 2.4 litre engine. When we're running on LPG, makes no difference. We've still got 140 brake horsepower as we do on petrol. It's at slightly higher revs, about 500 RPM higher, which makes no difference. Your performance, no difference. 0 to 60 time, fraction of a second slower on LPG, but you wouldn't feel it. And the only thing you'll find that marks it out as different is down here a button that says petrol, and that switches us from LPG to petrol. And I'm going to do it now. This is quite exciting, okay? Bear with me. Here we go. I'm going to press the button. I'm pressing it. I've pressed it, and nothing happened. All it says is switch to petrol on the dash, and that's it. There's not a clunk nor a word to let you know. Simple as that. I'm now on petrol. Now I'm on LPG. I'll go on petrol again. The car automatically favours running on LPG, and there's some very good reasons for this, and this brings us on to the important point. Let's talk Turkey. Let's find out just how much money we're going to save. Well, your fuel costs for a start, they're the most obvious change. Half the price of ordinary fuel. But it doesn't stop there, because there's also some compelling reasons for considering it beyond that. For instance, tax breaks. You'll pay less vehicle excise duty on it. You'll pay less on it as a company car. That's because it runs much cleaner. It pours out less noxious stuff into the environment, and the government are keen to encourage us to do that. So obviously you not only feel good, it's where you save your money. Volvo claim as well to be the first that are manufacturing these on the same line in the same manufacturing plant alongside the ordinary petrol-powered versions. And that shows just how closely linked these things are going to be and how many more manufacturers are going to be doing it. Vauxhall already do something very similar with their range. This is great. I'm actually able to make my contribution to not harming the environment as much. It's not entirely clean, just less dirty, and save money and feel good. And it doesn't hurt. It's very, very easy. We've long known that all Volvos are very, very safe for those tucked nicely inside. Now we know they're also safer for the environment, thanks to the use of LPG. And the really, really good news is performance barely suffers at all as a result. Of course, the cynical amongst us will point out that those tax breaks on fuel costs, etc., are only frozen by the government until 2004. They wouldn't encourage us to buy LPG cars and then put the tax up, would they? If you want to do your bit to save the planet and you haven't seen anything you fancy so far, try any of these, our 5 alternatives in reverse order. In 5th place, the Audi A2 1.4 TDI. It may not boast the most scientifically advanced of engines, but it is still a very clean and economical burning turbo diesel, and it's a very clever package, a very big, very small car. Citroën, of course, have long enjoyed a reputation for innovation. They may not achieve anything groundbreaking with the C3, apart from its looks, but that 1.4 HDI diesel engine will return an enormous 67.3 mpg. Not bad for a diesel. Another diesel, there's no doubt that modern-day oil burners can achieve really impressive fuel consumption figures, such as 67.3 figures for this remarkable-looking Toyota Yaris 4D. a practical car and a clean one too. Okay, so in second place, the Ford thing, if we're honest, is never ever going to sell on looks, but it is entirely electric, so you really can wear a very big, very health-conscious, world-saving smile. Proving that saving the planet isn't always easy, the Mitsubishi Charisma GDI. It might not manage the most impressive fuel consumption at 40.4 mpg, but it's the way it does it that matters. It burns it very, very cleanly. Nice one, Mitsubishi, first place. Well, we've looked at them, we've driven them, all that's remaining to do now is find out how they stack up. First up then, practicality, and last comes the Honda. Let's be honest, it's only got 2 seats, so 2 points there. 3 points go to the VW Golf GTI, 4 seats. The Toyota though, with 4 seats and 4 doors, gets an impressive 4. Next, value, and the VW trails in joint last place with the Honda. 2.5 points each go there. Surprisingly, the Toyota Prius is the cheapest of the 3 and gets 3 points. When it comes to style, the Toyota really can't swing it. You're never going to convince anybody it's pretty, just 2 points. 3 points for the Honda, which really for what it can do doesn't look that bad, but you've got to admit, the VW Golf does look pretty. It gets 3.5 points. When it comes to getting serious on the twisties, the Toyota simply gives up the ghost. That's not what it was designed for, 2 points only. The Honda makes a spirited attempt and earns itself 3 points, but the VW has to be the winner here, 3.5 points. Saving the planet might be good for your conscience, but is no good for performance. The Toyota Prius lags behind in third place with 2.5 points. The Honda puts in a good effort, considering again how clean it is, and gets 3 points. But inevitably the VW has to win here with 4 points. And so finally, our 2 clean green machines, the Honda and the Toyota, both get 13.5 points. But this week our winner has to be the diesel-powered VW Golf GTI with 16.5 points. Ignoring for a second whether or not it's economically viable for you or me to go out and buy a hybrid car, the important thing is they are being made today. They're only going to get better and they're only going to get cheaper. So one day we can all do our bit to save the planet. Meanwhile, I'll see you next week on Car File.